Hi, my name is Ilya Zlotnik, advisor and partner with Vivaldi Capital Management, and welcome to today's conversation with Dimitri Syrkin-Nikolau. Dimitri is an entrepreneur, restaurateur, founder, and operator of Dimo's Pizza, a very delicious pizzeria here in Chicago with multiple locations. He's also in the process of opening up a new restaurant called Southport Betty's, coming soon. Stay tuned. And when he has extra time, he's the chief financial officer to not one, but two businesses. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Ilya. Appreciate it.
Well, the environment and the attire is a little bit different for our conversations. Typically, we're at the climbing gym in our workout gear having these types of talks, but good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
Nonetheless. So the reason I started this interview series is I really enjoy hearing stories of entrepreneurs and how you built what you built. Lately, I've been curious about, are entrepreneurs made? Are they born? Is it a combination of both? I suspect it's the latter. As it relates specifically to you, before you built Dimo's into the successful restaurant that it is, what types of entrepreneurial business ventures did you tinker around with in your earlier years?
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me, Ilya. You're right. Normally, we are in the climbing gear and attire, but I do think that the conversations that we've had are sort of always edging towards what we're discussing today. So I'm excited to dive in. Mm-hmm. I think every entrepreneur's journey to being a successful entrepreneur is different with respect to whether they're born or whether it's learned. For me, as a young child, I was always very creative. I liked to build things and to make things. And when, I was maybe 8 or something, we had those little Bic pencils. You remember those little pencils that you could pump the lead in? You had extra lead refillers.
Yeah, I haven't seen those in a while.
Yeah. No, they're gone. But there was one moment where we realized that if we drilled into the top of one part of it and we excavated it, we could put little BBs in there and sort of make a little BB gun. That did not go well. We tried to sell them for a little bit. We got almost suspended, but we did not. And that was sort of my first foray into I can make something, I can be creative, I can build something, and if people are interested in it, they purchase it, I could continue. So that was sort of where it was the very, very beginning where I got some interest.
Yeah. Well, you started Dimo's at a very early age, in your early 20s. How did you get to that spot? And where did your passion for pizza come from?
Yeah, well, I started actually at a restaurant in Madison, Wisconsin called Ian's Pizza. Mm-hmm. I showed up there. I was 18. I'd worked in restaurants for maybe 2 years in high school. And, I was just interested in eating fun, interesting, good food. That was all it was. And it seemed like a fun environment. And I started working there. And as time went on, this love for entrepreneurship grew, and sort of my I don't want to say that my love of school slowed down, but I could see that what I was gaining from working in the restaurant business was sort of more than I bargained for, more than I thought I was going to gain. And the large reason for that is because I was given a huge amount of flexibility and freedom to try almost anything that I wanted in that restaurant, and to see then if it would succeed or fail. We were an open book finance type of restaurant. Ian's was back in those days, and I guess I'd say it's open book finance because there was maybe 15 people. Ian was pretty young. There wasn't many people to navigate with, so it was you're very close to power in a small business environment. So I would experiment, I would try, and it would either succeed or it would fail, as I was, sort of referencing earlier. And that process just sort of bared a lot of fruit for me. So they saw some of the growth that I was able to have at Ian's, and they thought, okay, maybe perhaps we could allow Dimitri to move to Chicago and open up his own situation. And in fact, they became investors in that venture.
Okay.
So that was the beginning.
All right, so you were, University of Madison,
yeah,
Wisconsin. You were working at this job. What's really interesting is that as a college student, they were giving you so much flexibility to explore different things to grow the business.
Yeah. I consider myself very grateful that opportunity existed in the first place. And I think that it is a hallmark of a good job is that, people can grow and learn in their role.
Got it. Okay, so you graduated, you had success kind of growing the business in Madison, and they were early investors with you. Now, this was 2008.
I think that the first time that I came down to Chicago to scout the location was even 2006.
Okay.
We ended up opening in 2008, but 2006 was sort of like the genesis of, okay, I'm going to go to Chicago and I'm going to open a restaurant.
Yeah, right in the middle of the financial crisis.
Yeah.
Right? So that was kind of a scary time. Tell us about that, kind of starting, the financing behind it, how you might have been impacted by the economy.
Yeah. Well, it is a strange thing to be given $250,000 in a bank account and being told, go open a restaurant. Like, that was about the instructions that I got.
How old were you?
I was 22 at that time.
That's wild.
That was what happened. And I did my job. I had to, it was an enormous amount of sort of learning on the fly.
Yeah.
We got open, and I think we opened July 24th. So actually just celebrated our 15th birthday.
Okay. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Wait, no, 16th.
Okay.
16th birthday. But I remember opening, and probably maybe like a month or two into opening, we realized it was required that we hire staff. We started with pretty small, but we really thought, okay, we must hire some people. And so I put out an ad on, at that time it was Craigslist. And I remember the caliber of the candidates that I got. One in particular was a PhD in like molecular biology, which is actually what my dad, he's a professor in molecular biology, and that's what he taught. And to see that person, he's probably in his 50s, applying for a job at a pizza shop was like sort of mind-boggling.
Was it because everybody was losing their job?
Yeah. It was sort of, because at that time, that was July.
Yeah.
Maybe it was September. I cannot remember when, Bear Stearns fell or,
September.
Whatever,
So he's like the definition of overqualified.
Yeah, the definition. And I'm 20. At that time, I'm 23. What can I do with that person? Like, I don't know enough. We did get a couple other individuals that were overqualified, and I lack the. I mean, obviously, that person's not going to be around for a long time. They're just panicking is really what it is, because clearly the market corrected and everything got back to.
Okay.
But it was definitely. It was a challenging time to open a restaurant, but I do want to note one thing is that we're pizza. Mm-hmm. And we're pizza by the slice. It's New York style. And pizza is by definition a very shareable food. It's sort of actually New York or elsewhere, it's more considered a street food, less so in Chicago style. But because of that, it also means the price point is cheaper. And so when a recession comes along, the thing that people cut out of their meal is not the very cheap street food. The thing they cut out is the $150 per person steak dinner that they're going to have Friday, right? And so I felt we were fairly unimpacted by it from a financial perspective.
It's remarkable because we invest into a fund that buys out stakes of entrepreneurs that have these kind of similar restaurant concepts, and they talk about how, besides COVID, which we'll talk about, that the realm that you play in within the restaurant space is fairly recession-proof.
Yeah.
People have to eat regardless, right?
They do.
And it might be as expensive to buy or inexpensive to buy pizza from you as it is to maybe go out and buy the ingredients and make it themselves.
Yeah.
Definitely less time.
Definitely less time.
So at what point did you kind of feel confident that you're like, wow, we've got something really interesting. This is profitable. It's growing. Let's open up more chains. But also you changed the name at some point because it was Ian's. Now it's Dimo's.
So, I'll sort of answer those questions together because I can't really divorce the two.
Yeah.
When I opened as Ian's, the idea was that we were going to open all of these variety of locations around the country, and that they would be independently owned. And after about a couple years, one of the investors in Ian's decided, he talked to an attorney and he realized this actually has to be a franchise model. Mm-hmm. It didn't have to be, but that was the advice that he got. And as soon as he heard, franchise model, what that meant for him is that, this is great. I'm going to get some recurring revenue from every one of these locations. It's a pretty decent model, especially if you own the thing. That didn't really jive very well with the the ethos of Ian's at the time, or even now, I would say, or at least until the moment that I left. I can't really actually speak to what has took place after I left, but so I opened. This news comes up that, hey, we're gonna change, and now we need to be a franchise, and you need to be a part of the franchise. And I sort of looked at like what that would mean for myself, for the people that I'd worked with for the past 2 years, and I realized that was not something that was part of, again, the ethos of who I was, or what I felt like Ian's was. But I wasn't forced to make a decision. And in fact, I had already purchased the restaurant from the owners. So I already owned it free and clear. And at that point, my decision was, do I want to join this franchise or not? Now, at the same time, I was the CEO of Ian's, the broader Ian's. So
so through those 2 years, you were able to buy out 100% of the ownership stake of that restaurant?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. We opened, and I mentioned some of those earlier times that I was learning over at Ian's. I think probably senior year I spent entirely dedicated to spreadsheets. I would see what our sales were. I would input the data into the spreadsheet, and I would try to pick out trends and understand like what's really happening here. And so when I opened this store in Chicago, I operated as lean as I possibly could. And so we were incredibly profitable, and I took those profits and used them to purchase the restaurant.
Okay. Got it. You were saying kind of along the story of, so you purchased a restaurant, and then it sounds like went two different directions.
Yeah. So I purchased the restaurant. They realized that they wanted to be a franchise. And again, which just wasn't of interest to me, but I was serving as a CEO. And so I had this moment where I thought, okay, well, can I rectify these two things that feel diametrically opposed? The culture of Ian's and a franchise. And I spent 6 to 8 months trying to do that, and it just felt like I was just bashing my head against the wall over and over and over again. And so I went to the owner of Ian's, and I said, I'm really sorry, but I can't. This is not something I can do.
Got it. So you stepped down to CEO. And that's what you converted the name?
Away. And that's when I changed the name. And then I thought, okay, well, we've operated for 3 years successfully, 2 years as under the Ian's ownership, 1 year when I own it solo. And now, okay, what can we do here? And after becoming independent and then changing the name, I knew immediately that the first thing that we needed to do in Chicago was build a new store. We needed to do that because we needed to establish that we could grow. The name Dimo's, while I had established it at our original location in Wrigley, it still wasn't what people knew it as when we opened. Mm-hmm. So in fact, to this day, you'll have people come in and say, I remember when it was Ian's, like all the time, which that is part of our history.
Yeah.
We were Ian's. But I knew that for Dimo's to have life, we needed to prove that we could be here in Chicago. And to do that, we can't just have changed the name of something that existing. It's too hard to explain that story to someone, especially in Wrigley at 1 a.m. No one's gonna have the time or patience.
Although it is remarkable that people are coming back 15 years later and saying, I was here when it was Ian's, and I'm still eating the pizza.
And that is true.
That's a good feeling.
I think it felt earlier in my career when people would say, I remember when this was Ian's, I felt like slighted. I was like, well, no, but we're not. And then as time went on, I realized, that is a testament to the fact that for 2 years when we were here as Ian's, we made a memorable impression on people's experience. And can't discount that.
Absolutely.
So.
All right, so you felt like you needed to grow. And actually, one thing you may take a step back. You mentioned the word ethos a few times.
Yeah.
I can't. There's a culture. If we franchise it, that ruins the culture. What is the culture of? How do you define the culture of your business?
Well, I guess I'm going to define it as a business that is focused on entrepreneurship first.
Yeah.
So what I mean when I say that is, yeah, we are a pizza shop. There's no question about that. But what I'm trying to do is not to teach people how to make pizza. What I'm trying to do is teach people how to run their own business. Mm-hmm. They don't know that. That's not what they know that they're signing up for when they begin. But it informs all of the structures, all of the ways in which we operate. So our objective is when we hire somebody, okay, they're going to start as a cashier, or they're going to start as a cook or a prep cook. My goal is always to get them to level themselves up as high as they possibly can be until we can do, the organization itself can grow and can support their growth along the way.
Yeah. Well, just kind of how you started at Ian's. They give you that opportunity, and
yes,
you figure that you hire people, they either sink or swim in that environment.
Yeah.
Some people appreciate it, they grow, and other people feel like they probably need to be a bit more controlled and told what to do, which is hard, especially when you're trying to grow your business. You can't micromanage everybody.
Yeah, that is a challenge. In fact, one of the things that takes place the most frequently is that you hire somebody and you explain to them, you have to learn, like it's your job to learn. We will teach you the things, but you have to take the onus, the responsibility of learning on your own shoulders. And that is something that is very hard to teach. Most people, like you just said, and let's not actually say most people. I don't know how many people, but that is something that you have been taught as a child. I find through parenting or from a mentor, at a younger age, how to learn. And so when you get those new hires that are excited about learning and will sort of soak up everything that they can, those are the people that take off and do great things.
Yeah.
So
it goes back to like, are entrepreneurs born or are they made? You probably have to have at least a little bit of that, like in your DNA.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it could be taught. But then there's also like that, I don't know if you've heard of the concept, entrepreneur. It's like people that aren't going to go out and take the entrepreneurial risk, the financial risk, but inside of an organization, they can act as entrepreneurs without having to take on that financial risk.
Yeah.
Just kind of some of what it sounds like something you've built.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I will say there are other people that have come through the organization that have also worked inside of the pizza shop and then gone on to do their own things and have actually truly been on their own entrepreneurs. Honestly, far beyond more success than I could have. Are you familiar with Spot Hero?
Absolutely, yeah, Jeremy Smith. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he started actually in 2010. He was working at Motorola as a financial analyst, and he was a financial analyst. So he looked at the numbers, and it's Motorola. Sorry, Motorola, it was not looking good for you guys. And he's like, what am I doing here? Like, what is like? I'm just sort of a cog in the wheel. Yeah. And honestly, he took a huge leap. He went to a pizza shop, and this was a sort of. I'm going to speak for him for a moment. Sorry, Jeremy. Because he told me he would work at the pizza shop and we'd be open until 2, 3 in the morning, and he would see his former classmates come in, and they were, he went to a good high school. He went to a good.
Wait, hold on. Was he at your pizza shop?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so he was working for you.
Yeah, he was working for me.
Okay, interesting.
And he at one point he was like, I would like to open my own pizza shop. This sounds great.
Yeah.
So we were exploring that as an option, but. It was somewhat humbling for him because people would come in that would know him and they would think, what are you doing here? What are you doing in this pizza shop? Yeah. Like as if it was bad, as if he should be embarrassed. I don't think he felt embarrassed. I think he was actually at that moment was sort of like the first moment where he was liberated.
Yeah.
I could do anything that I want. And he came to me eventually, and we had a sort of a nice bicycle ride, and we're staring back at the city from the planetarium, and he said, I've been thinking about this idea. I'm going to do it with a friend of mine. It's this parking situation. It was, a Spot Hero. And he said, what do you think? And I said, Jeremy, if you're excited about it, go, jump. And he did. And he is, truly, he's surpassed anything that I possibly could do. It's like he's a very impressive entrepreneur in his own right. And so I guess my objective as Dimo's is to try to provide those on-ramps for people, whether it's way up to the moon or whether it's just wherever their maximum, wherever they're gonna feel like they're truly what's the word I'm looking for? Like they're reaching their full potential.
Absolutely.
And that's the purpose, I think, of a good business.
Yeah.
Or one of.
Yeah. Well, yeah. One that can kind of grow without you always having to be involved in everything, and you can feel confident that people are doing the right thing. One thing that I, through our conversations that I always found interesting is you have people that have worked with you for over 10 years, right?
Yeah.
How many people? Out of curiosity.
Well, I mean, that changes over time, but as of right now, I think there's 4.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Especially in the service industry, because there's so much turnover.
Yep.
I think I was telling you, I think in my early 20s and late teens, between those years, I probably worked at like a dozen different restaurants.
Yeah.
You name it, I probably worked there.
Yeah.
So do you think that culture is the reason that you've had people stick around for so long?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that is a attractive element to what takes place, because I guess I have to take a step back and just talk about the service industry just in general. Very few people, or not, let me rephrase it. The majority of people do not enter the service industry thinking, this is the thing that I'm going to make my career out of.
Yeah.
Right? You do get those individuals, absolutely, that are passionate about food, that are passionate about service, but it's not the norm. We're passionate about wine. There certainly is a large community in that realm. It's just not the norm. So what you get is people that are excited about other things, that are in school, like myself, and are studying. They don't know what they're trying to do in their life. They're trying to do their best. They're trying to figure it out.
Make some money.
So, yeah, exactly. And so I think if you can provide a place where no matter what they do, they grow from that experience, that would be success. So, and I think I've been fortunate to be able to do that a couple of times, and I think that's why people stick around.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been jumping around. You were at one point talking about starting the next restaurant, the next location for Dimo's.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about that and how you kind of got to where you're at now.
Sure. So that was 2013. We found the location in Wicker Park. At that time, Wicker Park was sort of like coming back from the recession, and it felt like a big enough space where we could launch and make a statement. And so we went back through that same process that we took the first time. In this scenario, though, I have an existing restaurant. And so the challenge now is, how can I operate a restaurant successfully and at the same time continue to build something else? And to balance those two things, proved incredibly challenging. I think there's, one time where I came, I reached a breaking point. We were like so close to the end. And my parents came to visit, and they were there to support me. We were about to open. They were so excited to see me, and I'm standing. I'm like in the restaurant still building, and I keep not leaving. And everyone that's there knows that that my parents are in town and that I should go see them. And they're asking me, Dimitri, you got to leave now. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Get out of here. And I was like, why am I delaying? I was like, okay, yeah, I'll leave. So I go to leave, and I'm biking home. This is actually an incredibly intimate story. I don't know why it's happening. Maybe it's the ferns. Maybe it's your beautiful eyes. I don't know, Ilya. But I'm biking home, and all of a sudden, I cannot stop crying.
Yeah.
I'm just like, tears are like coming down my face. And I'm like, and I'm head, get it together, Dimitri. You got to see your parents. Like, what, I take a shower. I'm like, this will be better. I tell them where to meet me. I tell them a busy bar. And like there's an outdoor patio. It was July. I still can't stop crying. I get to where they are. I can see them through the fence, and and it's uncontrollable. Like it's not, and nothing's happening. And all of a sudden I realize, the reason is that if I see them, the first thing they're going to ask me is, how are you doing? And I know the answer is, I am not well, to put it politely. And sort of, it was one of those times where you have to face that reality.
Yeah.
And of course they care about me and they love me and they want me to succeed and to do well. And so I want to touch base on an aspect that you talked about earlier, which is are entrepreneurs made, or are they born? And I think that the reason that was so touching for me is because I knew how much they cared for me and how much they loved me. And so that support made me taking the risk possible. So I think sometimes, people can be born into it, and born with what it takes, but if they are not given the right support, the right mentorship, the right, I don't want to say the right parents, but the right parental guidance, that can be a challenge. And I know for me, that was an incredibly important part of my journey.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think of kind of me as a father to two kids, and how kind of being able to support them in anything they do,
Yeah.
and not give them conditional love, but unconditional love.
Yeah.
Kind of will go a long way, as it did for you, and being able to take those risks and knowing that you can fail and you'll still be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll jump around a little bit more.
That's fine.
So what makes Dimo's Pizza different? There's a lot of pizza shops out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of pizza shops. Well, when we first began, there were a lot less pizza shops in Chicago that were New York style by the slice.
Yeah.
So we're New York style, we're by the slice, and what we do is we take foods that you've eaten before, we deconstruct them, and then we reconstruct them on pizza. That was sort of the origin of our genesis. Our genesis, I should say. And in time, that shifted a little bit. But I think it's that's the food concept. But the what makes us different is much more of the fact that the people that work at each location have the capacity and the ability to express who they are through the service that they provide, through the interactions that they have, in a way that if you go to a McDonald's or any chain restaurant, really, where they're given here's the script that you follow, we have none of that. And so when you walk into every one of those restaurants, you feel the people that are working there. And so then what that does is it creates a personal connection that transcends pizza. Yes, there's pizza. There's all these interesting flavors. It's by the slice. It's fun, but it's that you can connect to the human being on the other side, and that experience can be unique and one of a kind. And what that does is it creates less of a transactional relationship and more of a we're in this together. Yeah, and I think that's sort of that is the defining characteristic that makes a difference between what we do and what others do.
So it's the pizza, the human connection. Again, going back to something you probably wouldn't get if you had a franchise model.
Yeah,
and you can't really control the people that you hire as intimately, or having that entrepreneurial spirit within the organization. So as you launch the second location, continue on that story. Kind of, how did you decide to go 3 to 4, and what's kind of the future of Dimo's?
Yeah. Well, we stayed at 2 for a while, actually. Mm-hmm. I hit what I'm going to call maybe a dark spot of Dimo's. For me, I was unsure about what my next moves were with Dimo's, and so we stayed at 2 for a very long time, until about 2018. In fact, actually, there was a period of time where I actually didn't even live in Chicago. I left. Okay. I left the city. I sold all my things. I was gone. I was really, yeah.
I didn't even realize that.
Oh yeah. All of end of 2017 through the end of 2018. Yeah.
So this is the dark period.
Yeah.
Like a midlife crisis type of thing.
Yeah. Maybe I had an early midlife crisis. No. I just I wasn't sure if what I wanted to do was restaurants. Am I still passionate about restaurants? And I think my vision got a little bit myopic, and I was sort of lost my way a bit. Which I think, again, is part of the entrepreneur journey. You're not, things aren't always clear, and for me, they were very unclear at that time. So I bring me towards the end of 2018. I had a moment. I thought, okay, I do like this. In fact, I love it. It is a wonderful thing. I'm proud of what I've built, and I would like to see it reach its highest successes. And so I came back to Chicago.
Where'd you go, by the way?
All over.
You were traveling?
Yeah, all over the United States. I was in Costa Rica. I was in Panama. In Nepal for a little bit.
So you put a manager in.
Yeah.
You were overseeing.
I gave someone else the role of CEO.
Okay.
Yep. And that was hard for that individual too. I didn't leave it in a great spot. And the individual was super excited to take the responsibility, but it's on me, as the person, as a small business. And this is actually one of my favorite things about small business is that you can't hide from anybody. Mm-hmm. The employees, the customers, they are all so close to you. In a huge corporation, yeah, the CEO, if they never want to talk to a customer, they'll delegate. But when you're in a small business setting, you interact with every decision you make. You watch the impact of, you feel it, you see your customers be happy with it or be sad with it.
And you are the brand to some extent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that decision was on me. But during that time away, I reflected and I thought, you know what, I should come back. And so I moved back to Chicago. I actually spent 4 months living on someone's couch, which was very kind.
In
Dear
Chicago?
family friend of mine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Lenore supported me. That was very kind of her. And the business was in shambles, I'll say, and nursed it back to health, got it to, 2019 was a rebuilding year, and all the way to 2020, which, of course, I was like, we're in such a good spot. We're about to crush it. January was amazing.
We had 2 locations at that point. Still?
2. Yep.
Okay.
January was amazing. February was amazing. And then, of course, COVID, right?
Okay. Let's talk about COVID. COVID's the most difficult environment that you could possibly imagine for a restaurateur.
Yeah. For me, do you remember those first, I'm going to say 5 weeks, the period where from March 16th, which is when restaurants were closed, until I think you had to wear a mask out in public, and it was you're supposed to stay at home except for essential businesses.
Yeah.
For me, that was the most thrilling time of up until that date of my entrepreneurial journey. I loved it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I can actually equate this to climbing. When you're climbing and you're climbing entirely without fear.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter. I'm going to try for this move. And if you fall, it's okay. I'm going to make it. And somehow, because you're doing that, you actually are able to do moves that sort of maybe are a little beyond your reach. But because you think, it doesn't matter. If I fall, the rope will catch me. That's exactly how I felt during COVID. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. No matter what I do, we are experiencing a pandemic on a global level in a way that hasn't happened in 100 years. If I fail, so what? What? Look at everybody else. Everyone else is struggling. It's hard. And so that freedom allowed me to operate in a way that was creative and excited for sort of what we could do, which is insane because what we ended up doing was we made face shields. With our pizza oven. You remember the PPE was a huge issue, right?
Yeah.
And
so you went into a separate business.
Yeah.
Face shields. I remember using the face shields on airplanes.
Yes. Yeah, you're like this ridiculous thing. The thing is that I read that face shields were in low supply.
Okay.
PPE was in low supply, and I called up a friend of mine that it was actually my brother-in-law, his sister. She worked at Lurie's hospital, the children's hospital.
Okay.
And she said, yeah, they're in low supply. The person that you want to talk to about this is the person in supplies and procurement. I said, okay, sounds great. I found that person on LinkedIn for a whole variety of hospitals around the Chicagoland area. And I said, because I'm trying to figure out, is this worth our time? Is this going to be a useful thing? And do people actually need this? And if they do, and either we can make them and they will be helpful, or I can make them and we can sell them. Either way, it's going to be a win for both humanity and for the business. So I reach out to all these different hospitals. These are blind LinkedIn messages. Mm-hmm. Do you ever respond to a blind cold LinkedIn? No. That is the lowest of the low communication. That person is, I'm so sorry that that's your job. That's rough. It's a rough sales job. You're probably in your first year. I got a response from the University of Chicago person in this job in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And when I got that response, okay, guys, stop it. We're not making pizzas. We're making face shields. That was.
So you literally pivoted the whole restaurant, or
I didn't pivot the whole restaurant. We continued doing takeout and delivery.
Yeah.
But we stopped doing slices. And if we stop doing slices, we have these 2 slice ovens that are sitting there doing nothing.
Okay.
And so when I saw that was the case, I thought, okay, we'll make face shields, and we'll figure out the rest later.
You need ovens to make face shields?
Well, we've had to figure out a manufacturing process.
Okay.
So acrylic will bend slightly if it's exposed to heat. We need a mold. I went to my metal supply house where they make stainless steel, Avenue Metal. It's down in Ogden. I've been using this guy for a decade. I would say I need, the wall covering, or I need this table covering. He'd build it, no issue. I came to him this day, and everyone there was still working. And I said, I need something like this shape. He built it. I took it. We sort of applied a heat gun and just watched the acrylic go from flat. And at that moment, I thought, okay, now we're going to be able to do it in the oven. And then the next thing I did, actually, you remember Dan Muir?
Yeah.
he was the person that I reached out to because he had been manufacturing, working at Google, helping with manufacturing of
the phones,
the Pixel. Yeah. And so I said, hey, Daniel, I need some help. Here's this ridiculous thing that I'm doing. Help me understand how to think about it. And he immediately, it's a pandemic.
He's an engineer.
And he's an engineer and always willing to help. He jumped on the computer. We started figuring out, here's how I would look at it. Here's what I would think about. And he sort of helped me understand the key metrics that I needed to pay attention to and how to actually manufacture en masse. Obviously, manufacturing a Pixel is slightly more complicated than a plastic face shield, but so that was helpful. And then, then away we went.
Okay.
We figured it out, and that allowed us. We probably made about 5,000 face shields.
Oh wow.
We gave a whole bunch of them away. We did a GoFundMe so people could buy them for a whole variety of organizations in need, and gave them away for those means. But I think the thing that it really did is it gave specifically me and the rest of the team a sense of agency in a time that was really dark.
Yeah.
You sort of can feel hopeless and lonely and without meaning because all of your life that you knew disappeared. And so that was sort of a nice moment to think, okay, well, we can do something and here's what it is.
Yeah, that was definitely a hard period for many people.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I actually knew that story.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, well, that's what we did.
Okay, so you did that, but how did you change your operations during that time? Did you incorporate certain technology? Because obviously the way you served clients drastically changed overnight to some extent.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
No, it did. Okay, so, I mean, one of the biggest consumer changes that took place clearly is that people only ordered food online or almost exclusively, right? Mm-hmm. And at that point, it was beneficial for me that I was already on Uber Eats and on Grubhub and on DoorDash, all of those platforms.
So you were a little earlier to that.
Yes, but in addition to that, in 2013, I built my own platform that did that exact same thing. It still exists.
Yeah.
You go to demospizza.com. That is like our platform. We own it. And so what that allowed us to do is it allowed us to pivot all of the products and everything that we needed to, everything that we wanted to sell on that platform, like immediately. What probably you don't know and most people don't know is that back then, the platform that existed to service the restaurants in Grubhub and DoorDash and Uber Eats and all the other third-party providers was atrocious. It was almost unusable. It was very challenging to get our products into those platforms without telling somebody and sending them an email. Well, you can imagine what took place during COVID is that every single one of those people, all of those companies were slammed with requests. Hey, can you add this item? Hey, can you add this item? Can you pivot in a way? Because everyone was trying to pivot to find what is going to hit product market fit during this time. But because we had built this platform back in 2013 and then we updated in 2014 and 2015 and we did it again in 2020, we already had something that allowed us to build, to add our products at our own pace. And so in addition to doing the face shields, we started making like whole baked lasagnas and like a whole variety of other products that we never would have made before. One of the individuals that's been around for 10 years plus, Steve is his name. He's our chef. He came to work. Our entire commissary team, which produces all the ingredients, went from like 4 or 5 just to 1. It was just him. So I would show up and I'd say, hey, Steve, so what products do we have that we can make anything with? And we had done a lasagna special a while ago. And he's like, well, we can make no-bake lasagnas. And I was like, great, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to put it up on. And so we could move very, very, very quick.
Okay. What was your revenue like between like 2019 to 2020 to 2021?
It was a drop. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
So it went down, but you were able to stabilize it because so many restaurants went under.
Yeah, I have to tell you, the 16th of March is the date. That is the date when they said in Chicago restaurants will be closed and that's the end.
Yeah.
And when they said that, immediately you got a whole variety of people that said, okay, we're going to close. We don't know what to do. They let employees go. And in my head, I thought, no, the cost for a restaurant of starting back up again is so great. That's not I mean, that's just also maybe just my ethos. I am a fighter, so I am going to find a way through this no matter what. And so that was never even an option in my mind. So we stayed open, and that allowed us to keep all of our staff, to continue to to work with them and continue to build.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's so much. Yeah. At that time, that was a difficult time because nobody knew what was going to happen afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, like I think about that. Relatively, it was easy for me because I'm working remotely. Things are becoming easier because everything's virtual.
Yep.
We were in Michigan for 6 weeks with the family.
So nice.
I didn't see many people for 4 to 6 weeks outside my family, which is interesting, especially when I got reacclimated back into the environment.
Yep. Well, I actually had so I just described what I'm going to call chaos in the restaurant industry, right? The other business that I am the CFO of and a partner in is Ruka, which is a design agency.
Yeah.
And so I had this very strange scenario where I had absolute chaos and sales tanking, even though we maintained a pretty decent base. We weren't profitable. The government programs were what got us through. That
helped a lot.
That helped a lot. That was essential. So that was happening, and at the same time, I'm the CFO of this design firm. And what is going well? Anything on the internet. Because what are people doing during this time? They're grabbing their phones. They're searching for stuff online. So the digital world exploded. And I'm CFO of that company. So at the same time as Dimo's is doing this Ruka is just taking off. And so it was the weirdest thing to be in both the absolute worst and the absolute best industry at the same time.
Yeah.
So that juxtaposition was, I would share it with the team members at Ruka often because I wanted them to know, hey, you could be like, we're kind of lucky over here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was fortuitous to some extent. I mean, you just diversified yourself into different industries.
Yep. Yeah.
And revenue streams. I mean, who knew COVID was going to happen?
Yeah, the pure luck.
Yeah. It worked out. I mean, I was fortunate to be in the right industry too.
Yeah.
As an advisor. Okay, so you got yourself out of COVID. You got PPE money. You were able to stabilize things, then shut things down, which is good. So where are you at now with locations? You added 2 new locations since then, right?
Well, we added 2. Yeah, we added a Spot and Revival Food Hall, and we opened up in Lincoln Square.
Okay.
And we did those because we came out of COVID and we had some money, and we thought that the more that we build, the bigger we are, the more we can create, the more opportunities there are for everybody. And so we built those 2 in 20. Let's see, we launched in 2020 last year, actually 2023. Both of them in 2023. One in the Revival is in January, and Lincoln Square was in April. And then that sort of has gotten us to a size that is, I mean, we're now 4 instead of 2, so double the size. And I took that that commissary that I talked about earlier, that produces a lot of the ingredients. That has been the sort of the central hub for the stores, and I took that and pivoted that into being able to provide for another restaurant, which we talked about earlier, which is Southport Betty's, and that is a bar, and that is we sort of did a whole nother menu. It's a very traditional Chicago style tavern. So we got the burger, we've got a brat, we've got a Reuben sandwich, Italian beef, et cetera, et cetera. And that will also be serviced by the commissary. So, it sort of allowed us to grow to a size that is, allowed us to now, sort of take other bets and open, different types of revenue streams.
Yeah. Southport Betty's, that's going to open in a few weeks or sometime in September?
It looks like the end of September. Yeah. Everything is done. We're just waiting on the license. I think the 21st, I will be talking to the city and saying, are we done?
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Opening up a new restaurant. Okay, so there'll be 5 restaurants. So what do you see the vision? Do you see yourself having more Dimo's restaurants, other concepts, clearly maybe using the commissary as like another revenue stream for people to leverage that for their own kind of restaurants as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm always driven by curiosity, for better or worse. And so what that has done is it's brought me to where I just described today. And I think at this moment, what I'm looking for is stability. That is the phase that I'm at right now, is just like that's a lot of motion in the last few years.
Yeah.
And I want all of that to settle. And so we're making still some bets, but they're smaller. They're tinier. For example, opening Southport Betty's allows the commissary to produce ingredients and sell to Southport Betty's. But that is a much less risky business than opening a new restaurant, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, it's simply, we're producing more ingredients and we sell that. Margins are much smaller, but it's more stable. And so the food hall location, same deal. After sort of 2 or 3 years of that tumult, I'm in the restaurant world anyways. Okay, let's take a deep breath and let's get stability.
Got it.
So
stability sounds nice.
Stability sounds nice.
That's
yeah.
chaos.
Oh, I think that it's a hard thing for me, to be honest. I mentioned how much I enjoyed COVID. Yeah. I loved the chaos. That was like my sweet spot. That
controlled chaos, right?
Yeah. And so now it's forcing the control. I think that's its own challenge. And but one that I'm excited to dive into.
Yeah. No, I could relate too. I think as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you're kind of geared towards always wanting to grow.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get to a point where you've grown nicely, sometimes it's more important just to hone in the kind of the operations and the service, make sure that's not getting left behind.
For sure.
Because you have clients that you want to serve and make sure they're happy versus always just grow.
Yep.
But I find myself when there's downtime being like, how do I grow? How do I grow? And sometimes I'm like, the month of August, I'm like, I just want to not grow.
Just give it a moment. Yeah.
I'm trying to focus on other things as well. So I can definitely relate there. One thing, that kind of comes out of a lot of the conversations that you have is you're very technology oriented. Like you were building out your own back office service delivery app at a very early time before people were even thinking about that. So how now that kind of AI is a buzzword, and it's even more than a buzzword. It's actually like, wow, the things that AI can do, I'm using it in my business. How are you using technology and artificial intelligence in your business
right now? Very limited.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be certain areas where, for ideation where it's helpful. Yeah. What I'm actually looking for is where the strategic advantage comes from not using AI.
Yeah.
There will be restaurants, and you've seen this all over, specifically franchises, that are going to leverage AI to the absolute maximum, right? And they'll do a great job of it. There's no doubt it will allow them to grow, to get bigger, to operate in ways that we probably can't quite fathom right now. My thought process here is, I don't know if I'll be in the restaurant industry long enough to see sort of that end and sort of where I will be in the competitive landscape at that point. But my thought is, what will that leave behind, right? You always see this call back to another era, right? I think actually our generation, you saw a lot of call back to, people going back to the land, or people wanting to work with their hands again, sort of as a rejection of modernity at this stage. Yeah. And I think you'll see the same thing in the restaurant world. You'll see people that go extreme to AI, and then you'll see other people say, okay, but how can we create an experience that is incredibly unique and actually unique? And I think that can lend more value to humans. And that, again, that's not to say that AI won't provide some huge growths, but in the service industry that is based around like a face-to-face human interaction, that might have more value than ordering with some AI bot.
Yeah, the human connection.
Yeah, even the knowledge that it is a human, not a bot. You understand the difference, right? Of course.
Yeah.
And but I don't know. Obviously, this is just a nascent technology, and I haven't wrapped my fingers into it as much as I would like to.
Yeah.
So. It's fascinating, though. I mean, have you found it to be useful in your business?
Yeah. Well, while you were talking, I was imagining just robots in the back, like flipping pizzas, and doing all that stuff. But no, we have kind of a similar thing where there was talk for years about, they call it robo-advisors, taking over the industry and all that stuff. But if anything, it's just come to a place where it helps with all the back office stuff and makes things more efficient and more scalable. Yeah. But in the day, people don't want to talk to robots. Yeah. They want to talk to an advisor. They want to sit down. They want to have these types of conversations because it's how we're wired, the connection.
Yep.
And one thing that I do think about that I think is really interesting is, like, right now, a lot of my meetings are virtual. Through Microsoft Teams. It's 2D. But, if you follow along with what's going on with metaverse, like I can see a future where you have these goggles, your client has these goggles, instead of being in the 2D world, you're kind of in a 3D world, in the metaverse, and having conversations that are almost lifelike.
Yeah.
I think that's possible, and probably not too far into the not so distant future. Now, I do have one really important question for you. As a person who loves pizza more so than most people I know, how many pizzas do you think you've had in your entire life?
Okay, so I did calculate this one time. I estimated that I have eaten 1.5 slices of pizza per day since I was 18. And I think that netted out to something like 13,000 slices.
13,000 slices?
13,000 slices, yes.
That's amazing.
I really need to get Guinness on the phone and see, like, I've broken the record, guys. Please come.
I suspect somebody's had more than that. There's probably people out there with hundreds of thousands of pizza.
It's possible, but it is true. It's such a wonderful food, though. There's a carbohydrate, there is a protein, there is a vegetable. You share it. It's cut, and everyone gets a little bit of it, and you can fold it and eat it while you're walking. Like, this is so great. Why? What's not to love?
Yeah. I mean, the most remarkable part is you've had 13 pizzas in your slip.
Yeah.
So, I mean, kudos to you on that one.
Well, I think that just means we need to go back to the climbing gym again and again and again, so it stays that way.
Yeah. Well, it was great having you on, hearing your story.
Thanks for having me, Ilya.